The Last of Us, a game developed by Naughty Dog which took the world by storm in 2013. Back during a time when zombies were all that people could talk about, we were given great games that followed the zombie trend, such as Dead Rising, Undead Nightmare, The Walking Dead, Dying Light, and of course we always had classics like Resident Evil. But then along came The Last of Us, a story with zombies plagued by the cordyceps brain infection. But the real draw for The Last of Us was the amazing story woven into this post-apocalyptic world. We have gut-wrenching and emotional scenes, a story of fatherhood, turmoil, loss, and the will to survive against all odds. The Last of Us became extremely popular during and well after its release, and a sequel was eventually debuted by developer Naughty Dog in 2020. And this would further go on to spawn one of the greatest video game adaptations of all time, The Last of Us TV series on HBO. And that's what we'll be taking a look at today in this video, but not just reviewing The Last of Us series, because let's be honest, almost everyone is doing that right now, but more importantly, I want to look at why it's so important to stick to the video game source material when making a series like this. Because if recent video game based TV series have made one thing clear, it's that when you have a successful formula, you do everything in your power to stick very close to it, or suffer the consequences. The Last of Us series, at least the first episode that I saw so far, was an enthralling experience. Again, there are tons of reviews online of this show, all praising it. Probably much better than I could review it, but I never play the game. Yes, that's my one single flaw. I was an Xbox boy, not because I hate the PlayStation or anything, it just wasn't in my budget at the time to pick up a PS4 until much later on in its lifespan. Regardless, even as someone who never enjoyed the thrilling experience of playing through The Last of Us, the first episode was still amazing. It hit just as hard as I'm sure it did in the game, and people seem to agree. I did some research to find out what actual fans, ones who actually played through the game, thought of it. The Last of Us subreddit blew up on the day of the episode's release. There were so many people commenting on how much they enjoyed it and how much they appreciated the little Easter eggs that the writers put in. For instance, in this scene where this SUV is about to hit Joel's truck and flip them, this happened in the game by the way, the writers troll the audience and it just screeches to a halt before T-boning them. In another Easter egg, Sarah gives Joel a movie called Curtis and Viper 2. Which was mentioned in the second game. There's even a scene where they adapted the road signs absolutely perfectly, one-to-one. So why am I bringing all these up? Well, these may seem like small details, but they're really not to me. This clearly shows that the creators of this series genuinely cared about what they were making, and most importantly, they have a massive respect for the source material. And that would make a lot of sense, because The Last of Us TV series was created by Neil Druckmann, current co-president of Naughty Dog, and most importantly, the actual creator of The Last of Us video game. But this show wasn't just created by him alone. Enter Craig Mazin, creator of the critically acclaimed and award-winning series Chernobyl, and actual fan of the game. Craig himself showed his gratitude for the fans and their praise of the show in a post on The Last of Us subreddit, and the praise, in my opinion, is very well deserved. To summarize, The Last of Us unashamedly follows the video game almost exactly, even down to the small details. The characters are the same, the setting, the events, nearly everything. They have added in some small scenes in between the moments that occurred in the game, but this does not deter from The Last of Us in the least. In fact, I think it makes it even better. I have watched all the video game cutscenes since I watched this first episode, so I was able to pick out little additions, like when Sarah goes to fix the watch that she gives Joel, or when Sarah goes to the neighbor's house and the old lady in the background slowly succumbs to the cordyceps infection, which by the way is insanely well done and super creepy. Can we give this old lady some appreciation? She might be my favorite part of the episode. The acting, in my opinion, was A tier. Despite some small hesitation fans had when they heard about his casting, Pedro Pascal really did a good job of getting into his role as Joel, and I thought he nailed it. I can go on and on about how good this episode is. Everyone involved did such a fantastic job of bringing The Last of Us to life. It's simply a testament to how great and cinematic the game was in the first place. And that brings me to my main point. Not to detract from all the efforts of everyone involved in The Last of Us TV series, but it would simply be nothing without the game and its fans. In fact, it wouldn't even exist. Which is why it boggles my mind that other brain-dead producers and executives don't follow this exact same strategy. You take an existing beloved video game story and you adapt it, nearly one-to-one, into a TV series or a movie. That's it. That's all you have to do. If the existing game in question that you want to adapt to the TV screens is successful, has fans, and has established itself as a prominent icon in the gaming world, don't mess with it. Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin understood this perfectly, and being who they are, how could they not? In order to fully appreciate this, let's take a step back and look at an alternate timeline. Now, I want you to imagine a world in which Neil and Craig were dropped from the creative team before production. The executives simply thought that only disgusting peasants play video games, so they can't stay close to the original source material. They need to change it because they have to appease the broader audience. They go through focus groups of brain-dead zombies that might as well play as extras in The Last of Us, and after many boardroom meetings, they decide that Joel is demoted to a sidekick. They make Ellie the main character, and instead of her being a kid, she's now a 20-something-year-old girl boss. And she's the one who's protecting Joel and saving him from threats all the time. But there's just not enough of a social message in there yet. So let's make it that Joel hates women, and Ellie just kicks ass and shows him how wrong he is and how useless men are. Then we just pad the rest with mindless action for about 10 episodes straight, and cut, print, that's a wrap. You know, I can almost guarantee if Neil and Craig were not involved in making this show, then this is probably close to what we would have gotten, completely devoid of any source material and a show representing The Last of Us in name only. In fact, we could look to recent shows to see exactly that. Halo. Wow, what a pile of trash. A show which completely ignored the source material that the fans loved, and creators who specifically went out of their way to not play the games. It literally doesn't even feel like it's from the same IP. The creators of the Halo series used a nice little cop-out, saying that this was in the same universe, but in an alternate timeline. This is something you would say if you had no respect for the source material and wanted to make your own show, but your shitty show couldn't get greenlit unless you plastered the Halo name over it. And there you go. Probably how the Halo series was born. And it was not received well because, hey, guess what? It didn't follow the source material like The Last of Us did. And to make things worse, everyone involved in writing the series was a total untalented failure, jamming in their own ideas into an existing IP that didn't need it. The point I'm making is that both The Last of Us and Halo have a diehard fan base that would be absolutely content to sit in front of their screen and watch a series that's directly adapted from the story of the original games. Games can have great stories. They can evoke emotion from us in ways exactly like movies do. We feel connected with the characters. We feel their struggle. We relate to them. And when the fans feel this way, all they want is more. The Last of Us is truly a testament to this and to how successful you can be at making a video game TV series when the source material is pure gold. It's not a difficult concept. Hopefully moving forward, these producers will see what Neil Druckmann, Craig Mazin, and everyone else involved in The Last of Us were able to pull off. One of the most highly rated TV series of all time.